I see meeting. We'll call to order. Welcome. I think everybody on here knows each other. So I don't have any announcements. Does anyone else have announcements? All right. So I guess we will go ahead and go to public comment then. I think it's 3 minutes per person. And do I keep track of that, Brittany, or do you keep track of that?
I will keep track of that.
Okay, awesome. So it's Dylan and Ken, is that for public comment?
And Leanna, I think if I'm saying her name right, she's coming in right now.
Okay. All right, so welcome Dylan, Ken, and Leanna. I'm not sure who wants to go first, but whoever would like to go ahead and unmute yourself.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes. This is
Dylan. We start. I was going to do the words before all, so we'll start. I'll say a little bit of language to give creation and to be thankful to be a part of just to be a part of whatever we have going on here for going to be passed or to be added on behalf of the governing body of the chiefs and clan mothers. Go ahead and we'll start. And Dane Dios ko ane wado. Ne hendrai wak diso sungwawi kano henyok. Ne no adwanotenyo. Ne dine ska and dwang wat nikoha skan and what at nyok to wat nikoha. Ne edwa tro ne gandio gwesi dagandwa kwad wano. Ne toga howe. Ne sungwaya diso ne gato hongi ne skano adwanotenyo. We zaka doga ne kago to go home. Ne dine and what they were noni. Sa ho Wednesday when no had that one home qua. Ni okto one nikoha. Had ba trowi. Ne ta ho manzada. Ne gangu gato. Te onwe groggy. Go to golf no no ko try home no. Dogan Neo kaya taken hat. Ne dine and what they were noni. One grat no. It again ni okto one. And ane had wa trowi. Neon ta. Ne gango. Ne sondak. Ne no ko try. Sak ne ona gona. Ne dine but the way Antonio Sanigaha Yota Nitogan Yoktohua Nigoha Hedwa Trowi. So then ya no ne neka disha or the hedoni. Go with the going and they what and to go no ko try home no. They didn't no needed when Antonio neka disha or the hedoni. Itogan Nigoha. And Hedwa Trowi. Kadinyo ne kadidaksano gis ne had notice ne gango ne iwahonte so ne hagagwini a shagin dino ne scan ne aquagiacchio ne scano e ye ha dano ne dine and what they were no onyo ne gadino ne kadidak ne kadikanogis ni togan ni octon and ne trovi ne hawe yo kanya dain manasegi handen yo wayo no wow dok ne ona yo he konho sa ho ne yo gen he konho sa ni yo posta ne dine and that one onyo ne kanya dain yo segi handen yo wayo itogat ni okto wat ni goha and ba trowi sungwara na try ni gyon ha ko ne gaon gwa to ne scano ardwa no tenyo and go mawan and then to ne neo na ne danyo ne sungwara na try ni ne waya no ni that went on yo ni togat ni okto and ba trowi ne sa ne hegan scano ardwa no tenyo ne ne ka wait but that no ni o da out o dias scano onigyo ya ne de wawanye ne but the waya no ni that went on yo ni togat ni okto hangwa ni goha and ne hedwa tro questa na hent kwa hadi wanon de ke sa no kwa ona hadi o negase nanto o wenzege and but the waya no ni that the sa dieti no henyo hika kwa hadi wanon de ke sa ti so dieti no kwa ni okto hangwa ni goha and ne hedwa tro we de ka ga kwa ge wasad wacha de sad wano ne ona to ha te tonk sa ha Wednesday ne a ho tai ha to honk ne di ne bo de
Dylan,
waya no ni de sad
apologies,
wano
Dylan.
de
It's
ka kwa ge
each speaker has 3 minutes, and that's over 3 minutes. So we're gonna need to go to the next speaker.
Sorry for interrupting. I thought we had talked about Dylan and Leanna having a little more time as like topical speakers.
Sure.
And
So well, we were doing the public comment first, and that's 3 minutes per
I wonder if they didn't understand.
person. Larry,
I move that we waive the 3-minute public comment rule in order to allow effective communication between us and the speaker. I don't see any reason for us to keep to an arbitrary rule so that we can, I think we'll be fine.
I'll second that.
okay. So is we have to vote on that then?
I don't think we need to vote on it. It's up to you.
It's just, oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine with me. Okay,
Go ahead, Dylan.
so Dylan, sorry for interrupting. We're gonna go ahead and you can continue from where you left off.
okay sorry about that I was just reached out to and they asked me to do the opening address after that I do have comments though that I would like to add to the resolution pass. I have a it's kind of like the Haudenosaunee Grand Council that reiterates elected councils. I'd like to add it on to the resolution as well. It's greetings from the brothers, faith keepers, and the people of Haudenosaunee, Six Nations Confederacy, people of the lawn. The Grand Council would like to take this time to remind its citizens of the Haudenosaunee on impacted band and tribal councils. Proposed remedy of standardized governance, the domain of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. From the moment elected were imposed in our communities, its intent was to abolish strength and national character of our traditional government and to assist the enfranchisement and assimilation of the Haudenosaunee into the national fabric of both Canada and United States. It has the position of the Haudenosaunee that elected Canada or the United States exist that. No one person or nation can circle another form of without the full expressed acceptance of the great. The law makes the line between traditional councils clear and distinct. Traditional councils are the governments of the Haudenosaunee communities handling national affairs, while the elected councils are systems of the Indian Act in Canada, federal Indian law, and United for the administration of the policies of each community. Within recent years, however, councils have begun commanding the distinct symbols and philosophies, the national character of the Haudenosaunee, thus misrepresenting themselves to external agencies and the significant Haudenosaunee as the original indigenous system. Whether it is reference to the treaties, nation-to-nation relationships, or the supposition that these elected councils are synonymous within the Haudenosaunee Confederation councils. This ambiguity has now perpetrated a false and both internally and that elected are part of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, which they are not. Add that for the record. That in for the to add it to the resolution they're trying to put forward through to send to the BIE here for our nation dispute that's been happening down. Now, pretty much all I really have to, add, won't take too much time. Like I said, when they reached out to me, asked me to do the opening address, and go from there with public comments. But if Leanne or anyone, I'll leave it open for them after that.
Thank you, Dylan. And Ken or Leanne, either one of you can go ahead and unmute when you're ready.
Unless this is something that, I mean, if they would like to wait until the resolution is discussed, we can certainly put it there. We don't necessarily have to put it under public comment. I guess it wasn't communicated very well that they weren't going to be a public comment. It was, more along the lines of speaking to the resolution. So we can certainly move that there and continue on with the minutes. And also, Rachel, I guess technically you should announce that there will be an executive session at the end of the meeting to discuss membership.
Right. Okay. So if we do that order then, so it'll be minutes approval. And then yes, at the end of the meeting today, there is going to be an executive session to discuss new membership to WDIC. So for the May 25th, 2022 minutes, did everybody get to take a look at those? And if so, can I get a motion to approve them?
Hello,
Okay,
Lisa.
seconded by Veronica, thank you. And I think all voting members are on camera, so if you just raise your hands to approve the minutes, and that carries. And so then we'll move on to discussion items, and the first discussion item is the Gaekono request for resolution. So I don't know, Veronica, you want to go ahead and speak to that, and then we can start discussion?
Yeah, thank you. I don't so much want to speak to it yet as first apologize for the logistical confusion. I think I and some other folks on a bunch of sides of this meeting were going back and forth kind of at the last minute. So there is a draft, as it says in the agenda, there is a draft resolution urging the Department of Interior and Bureau of Indian Affairs to heed Geigo removal of Flint Halftown. That's not exactly what it's called. That we decided not to vote on today because some folks thought that it wouldn't be appropriate to have staff members as opposed to legislators cast votes on this sort of inherently like political or like nation to nation issue as opposed to something more internal to the county workforce. However, the topics on here for discussion, and I want to apologize to Dylan and Leanna in particularly, because yeah, I did in fact invite Dylan, and I did talk to Henry about this, who's not here, the chair of the committee, to give the address he gave at the beginning and also speak for potentially more than 3 minutes, as well as having, and Dylan and Leanna are both Geigo citizens to whom this pertains very closely, as well as have public comment from, it turns out we've got one other person here who is not Geigo but wanted to speak on the issue. And Henry and I talked about having him or others keep 2-3 minutes with the public comment rule so this didn't go out of proportion. And now I'm probably talking for more than 3 minutes about this. Anyway, just wanted to apologize and hope that we can have a discussion, and in particular, like learn some from Dylan and Leanna, as we've already started, more just for learning, but with no decisions to be made. And I am planning to bring the resolution as a voting item to the full legislature at a later date, but not today. And I'll let them lead on talking to the content.
This is Ken, if that's all right, just to jump in quickly. Dylan, I'm wondering if there's more you wanted to say. I was just messaging with Leanna and I said we had messaged offline and decided I would take my 3 minutes quickly before Leanna, but if there's more you wanted to say, Dylan, for framing, please do go ahead. Otherwise, I'm happy to start my 3 minutes.
Okay, yes. I would just like to add, to what I said before. After here, I could send emails out to whoever needs this to kind of resolution as well. Yeah, it's just very important to kind of get it out to make it stronger than what it is now, to get our point across clearly. So I don't know. I feel like, for this land to trust is going to be a decision mid-July. So with all that being said, Clinton had his so they're known for violence and so we're here to kind of paint the picture to bring it to BIA and let them know like happens on his behalf. People, it can be pretty destructible here with Twitter. So we just really hope it's the resolution to kind of be sent to the Department of Interior. I kind of wish, maybe, I'm not sure if Chief Sam George had to add to it. I know he said he couldn't make it. He gave me some words of encouragement to send to this resolution or public comment, that it's important that Interior knows, give Clinton a position or power against the people here hurt within the next month or so, or evict. Very serious situation that us to deal with here on territory. I'm just trying to help make sure that doesn't happen. So, but I know she could, what I kind of just said, and give what she wanted. So,
Thanks, Dylan. So Ken, you can go ahead.
Yes, starting a 3-minute timer over here. Thank you, Dylan, and thank you to all of you for making the time to hear these comments, these important comments. I'm here really to speak just in support of the resolution and to speak to its soundness and its common sense nature. My name's Ken Wolkin. I am a graduate student, a PhD student at the University of Washington. I'm currently subletting an apartment here in Ithaca for the summer. I'm in the geography department. I study governance politics, and governance relationships. And for the better part of the last 10 to 12 years have really been specifically focusing on relationships between the Cayuga Nation or the Gayogono Nation and what I would call the settler state or the US state at all scales. So the federal level, the state level, counties and local municipalities. And have been a part of a group of people who have been working and organizing over the last year, about the last year or so, to support the traditional leadership and citizens of the nation in their efforts to have our government respect their governing authority and their governing prerogative effectively. And so, first I would say that the text of the resolution that you have before you, there was a lot of care put into that in multiple ways. One is that it was very deeply researched in a sort of traditional, archival sense, in that there are, over the last 20 years throughout which this issue over, it's really our own issue over, we continue to misrecognize the nation's leadership at our federal level. The sort of conflict that has resulted from that and has played out over the last 20 plus years has resulted in tens of thousands of pages of document production in administrative proceedings. So Dylan mentioned the BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and as well as other, federal and even state court settings as well. So there's tens of thousands of pages pertaining to this dispute. And I say with a very humble confidence that I've spent a lot of time going through that and consider myself pretty well versed in it. And I will just say that the more that I became familiarized with that side of, the sort of information, the clearer it became that something is very wrong here in terms of the way that our federal government is engaging in the nation-to-nation relationship with the Cayuga Nation. And that, taking actions like these at this critical juncture when, Clint Halftown's, council has an open, request to place land into trust, which is opposed by traditional Gayogono citizens and the traditional leadership. It's vital that we take actions like this to pass these resolutions. Wow, my 3 minutes is up. I'd love 10 more, but I'm happy that you'll get to hear from Leanna, who I had the privilege of traveling to DC with, along with Dylan and others recently, to bring this message to Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand's offices. Those efforts continue. This, passing this resolution is one small part that you can take at the local level. This text of this resolution has been passed in other places already. So Dryden passed a very similar resolution. This isn't something bold or brand new that you all are doing. I'm past 3 minutes. Happy to speak to anyone if I can answer any questions at any point leading up to your vote. So thank you, and please vote yes for this resolution.
Thanks, Ken. We did waive the 3-minute thing. So, I mean, you could have taken an extra couple if you feel you need to.
Sure. I'll just say, I've done a lot of that, like archival documentary research, and feel very, again, grounded and confident in the righteousness of the information that's contained in the resolution. But over the last year, what really has blossomed is a lot of relationship building. And so I've, again, had the privilege of getting to know Leanna, getting to know Dylan, other, sort of self-identifying traditional Gayogono citizens in and around Seneca Falls and other areas around the lake, and, traditional, sachem or chief Sam George up in Union Springs. And, so it's just to say that this isn't just based on, kind of a reading of this archive. It's also based on and has been created in dialogue with Gayogono citizens and title holders, or the rightful leadership of the nation. So that's just to say that I think both relationally speaking and in terms of just analyzing the ways in which our federal government continues to misrecognize the leadership of the nation. Again, this resolution that you are considering is to me a very common sense way to support the rightful leadership of the nation at this critical juncture for their prerogative. So I'll leave it at that. But thank you for the extra time.
Of course, thank you, Ken. Larry, did you have something before we go to Deanna? Okay, or Leanna, sorry, Leanna.
I'm all set.
Leanna, are you there? If so, you can go ahead and unmute.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, good. My name is Leanna Young. I'm a Gayogono Ontowisas and mother. I live here in Seneca Falls. I moved here with my family in 2011, so we've been here about 11 years now. And I've seen a lot of government practices, quote unquote government practices, firsthand, being a member of Clint's Clan and my mother being actively involved in the government. I was her tag along, so I've seen a lot in the past 25 years. And I've watched this whole thing evolve from something I thought was pretty special to the mess that it is right now. I know that land in a trust seems like a good idea. It's really not. And it comes with great consequences for our people, particularly our children and our future generations to come. Land in a trust guarantees that your government will protect our lands only to a certain depth, which means that any minerals and resources located underneath them would belong to your government. What that also means too is by putting that land into that protection, it means where there's special privileges that come with that. They would, I guess, essentially carry the same status as your lands, and that we can enact our own, what do I want to say? Our own rules, regulations, and laws. We already do that, but with the nation representative being Clint Halftown and that being recognized by your government, that means that when the land and trust goes into effect, that means everything that he has enacted will also go into effect full force. His Cayuga Nation police are a grandiose hired security team, at which point when land in a trust happens, they become a real force. They're weaponized men, can come into the homes, can arrest citizens. His court will become real. The jail that he is using in Pennsylvania that he plans on sending people to, that will become real. He will transport us across state lines. There is nothing anyone can do, and it's going to be a repetition of what Ray Halberta did to the Oneidas in the 90s. It's a very scary thought. I want to make you all aware too that this has not only affected our people and our people's minds, it has now crept into our children's minds. I'm just going to share with you. I took some children home. They had come to visit my house, the community children. Also children that my children have gone through this with. They were all destroyed by the destruction. And I listened to a conversation they had amongst each other, and they were sharing nightmares. And one child had a nightmare that Clint Halftown was trying to shoot him and chase him down the road with a gun. And another child had a nightmare that her parents, it was my daughter, and she never told me this. My daughter had a nightmare that Clint Halftown was at my house, at our door, wanting to shoot me if I didn't come out and give myself to him. It was, they don't tell these things. They say these things to each other, but just the awareness that it's now affecting these children. They're having nightmares. They're having these thoughts. It's very real and very scary. And I can't put enough urgency into asking you to please vote yes, to please acknowledge that he is not the leadership. He is nothing like a leader. No leaders do this to their people. No leaders do this to their children. Those are his children too, just as much as they are mine, just as much as they are Dylan's. You know, those are our children, and this is the kind of future that we're leaving for them, because there is no reason because. There is no reason because. I want to tell you today that land in a trust is a great detriment to the Gayakono people, to the Cayuga people. It will begin, well, it won't begin it. It will actually finish off the genocide that was intended for our people before the boarding schools, before the reservations. All that intention will come full circle, and through Clinton Halftown, through that BIA agent, it will erase Cayuga people from history, and it will assimilate them into your ship. And we will lose our language, we will lose our culture, we will lose everything our ancestors have fought for and have prayed for us to fight for them. I've been doing everything that I can to make this message, help this message get out and help spread it out. I just really want to encourage you to really, think about the detriment that this man has done and will continue to do to these, not only us, but our children as well. And the nightmare conversation has really struck a chord with me, because I didn't realize it has gotten that bad. I did not realize that. So I just want you to, think of the children, think of our people that aren't here yet, and help us protect them and help us protect what we already have, so that they have something for their future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Leanna, Ken, and Dylan, for coming and sharing those stories with us. Does anyone else have any questions for Veronica, Ken, Dylan, or Leanna while they're here? Questions, comments, concerns?
Just more of a comment. Just the person, it's, thank you for coming and sharing these heartbreaking stories. They're unimaginable. The things that are happening, it's reality of your lives, and so we appreciate your bravery in coming and sharing, all that's happened and advocating for your place in your community. As a person who's not from here, or very familiar with a lot of the concerns, knowing that hearing about the devastation of what's happened in your community, I think it's important, just as human beings, to be thoughtful and careful. And so I just wanted to say I appreciate your time and coming to share and keeping up your advocacy work and doing what you think is best to continue to protect your community.
Thanks, Deanna. And Larry, I see you unmuted.
So I know we're not voting on a resolution today, and probably this kind of resolution doesn't really make sense to come from us for the reasons Veronica said. But I wonder if an informal sense of the committee would be helpful to say to the legislature that we've listened to these stories and we find them credible, or whatever we want to say, and we encourage the passage of the resolution by the legislature. I mean, I don't know if we have to have a formal vote, but unless somebody objects, I'd like to be able to say to Veronica, we support, we think this is an important resolution, and the legislature needs to seriously consider it and listen to the voices of the traditional leaders of the Cayuga Nation. Something along those lines.
Anne and Veronica.
Thanks. I think it would be helpful, whether it was a straw poll or something like that, but as Veronica said, we don't want to put staff, members of the community, in a position to do something that they might find is more suited for a political vote. So I would, I'll stay out of the conversation and let you guys discuss that, whatever you feel is appropriate. You want to say anything else?
Sure. Oh, yeah, just before you mute. Yeah, I agree with Annie. I think it would be helpful if there was like if the committee wants, if there is some sort of form of support or encouragement from the committee. I guess I'm not sure if I'm speaking with the hat of a member of the committee or someone who'll be listening to the committee later on, but if there's something you all feel comfortable with or comfortable affirming, that's not the resolution itself. Yeah, it certainly would be helpful, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen, and most especially, thank you, Dylan, for coming. Thank you, Leanna, for coming and being so vulnerable with your stories. Briefly also, while I have the floor, I just wanna kind of summarize like a take on this from the like US citizen settler perspective, is that the I hope you know that the Gaigono people, like, Dylan and Leanna's people, were on the land that I don't know where everyone physically is right now, but certainly that like we in Chambers are meeting on long before the United States was a thing, before Tompkins County was a thing. And, there's been a huge long history that we can't go into that Leanna alluded to of brutal violence against Native folks here. And so I think we have a responsibility to, at the very minimum, not make it worse. And what the US is doing right now by empowering Halftown is actively making it worse. So by making a statement now, we wouldn't be like overstepping and intervening in the affairs of a separate sovereign nation. We would be like calling our own nation to task, to say quit it, to say stop blocking traditional Gaigono people from their own self-determination, from taking care of themselves and living and raising children and whatnot in the way that they are, as exemplified today, clearly saying that they want to do. I'd like to offer that framing as, we, the US people, think about this.
Thank you, Robert.
I'm just going to speak as a community member of the committee and also a person of colonial heritage. Thank you, Veronica. I think you expressed a lot of the sentiments that I would. The greatest statement that I can make from the place of my understanding is that neither I nor my government should have a place in determining the destiny of sovereign people, except for advocating for the highest standard of upholding human rights and human dignity for all.
Thanks, Robert. Anyone have anything further? As far as what Larry was speaking to, I don't know procedurally what WDIC can do, aside from when my idea, what I'm thinking about is just if this does go to the full legislature, any one of us can reach out to the legislators to let them know that we support this. resolution and why, and we can tell them, you know, what we heard today. And I hope that when it does go to the full legislature, that these folks would be invited back to speak to the full legislature as well, so that they can hear it firsthand before they're voting on it. That's just, those are my thoughts. I don't know if we're not voting on the resolution. I'm not sure what other actions we can take as a committee aside from just reaching out personally to legislators. Brittany, did you have something?
Yeah, I was going to say, when this goes to the legislature, I'm assuming it will go at the July 19th meeting. Anyone is welcome, staff, public, whomever, anyone is welcome at the legislature meeting to speak during public comment in support of either the resolution that has been put on the agenda or one that hopefully will be added to the agenda, however it ends up getting filed. But that, I mean, I'm not advising anybody, but that may be just to avoid muddying waters with, you know, identifying as staff people right now or legislators. That may be the best way to do it.
Thanks, Brittany.
Mhm.
Anything further on this topic?
Just what Brittany suggested sounds good to me, and I think that would be effective, probably as effective as anything else in communicating a message to us, the wider legislature.
All right. So before we move on, I just want to thank Ken, Leanna, and Dylan again so much for coming and sharing with us. Thanks. So our next discussion item is Juneteenth summary, which was going to be Ken, but when he said he couldn't make it, I said I would do that. So we had our Juneteenth proclamation, June 1st with the city, June 7th for Tompkins County Legislature. Monday, June 13th, we had our presentation by Dr. Annette Gordon-Reed, which as of 11 this morning, there have been 249 views on that presentation on the YouTube page. Wednesday, June 15th, we had the Black-Owned Business Expo, which I know I saw some of you at. That was good turnout. I'm not sure how many people were there, if we even kept track of that, but I know that there was interest in doing that again, possibly next year. So if you missed it, you may be able to catch another one next year. And then Friday, the 17th was the Southside African American Heritage virtual tour, which has been viewed 128 times on the county's YouTube page. And Ken wanted me to make sure to thank all of the committee members that helped plan these events, and also that Professor Gordon-Reed's presentation is available only for a limited time due to contractual stipulations by her speakers bureau. So if you want to catch that and hadn't, you should probably do that soon. I'm not sure what the time frame was on that. And we have yet to have a debriefing meeting to discuss what worked, what didn't work, and what we might want to do next year. So we might have more on that after we have that debriefing meeting. Anyone have any questions or comments about the Juneteenth summary? Okay, so moving on, our next discussion item is the strategic planning process update.
Our colleagues wanted to share, the Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee had identified developing a comprehensive DEIJ strategic plan this year. And so we had convened a subcommittee of this group and listed other stakeholders, including some of our unionized representatives, and we had identified a pathway forward, shared it with this committee. Along the way, our broader organization had received an opportunity to apply for to funding to develop a comprehensive strategic planning process for the entire organization, which I think when we talk about centering equity, that's always our intent to ensure that the work that we're doing is included in all aspects of our work. With this update and with this new funding opportunity, we have chosen to, I talked to Henry about this, and I've talked to some of our colleagues, want to hit the pause button on that process, because this way the organization has one strategic planning process as opposed to having a climate survey here potentially, then the strategic planning process, then a diversity plans separately. And that shouldn't be the case. And the other one we're going down that path initially is so that we could try to bring some of our work together throughout the organization, knowing that there were other things that would be happening potentially in the future, but timing wise wasn't working out. And so Lisa has been working with the planning department, and she also invited me into the conversations around this work as well. To date, the data and analysis subcommittee of Team Jedi has collected lots of information around equity metrics and things that which will be helpful to inform the overall process once we get to that part. But at this point, we're going to pause until further notice as we move these things together, because Tompkins County government is one organization. And we believe that we'll have better outcomes if we do everything together, as opposed to having, stop, start, and then we can capture as much information as possible. But wanted to know there's not it's an intentional delay in the process so that we can bring more people together and be more inclusive in our process. And Lisa, would you like to comment any further or share additional details? As Lisa will be the person to provide future updates, or her designee.
Sure, thank you, Deanna. I can add just a little more context to, we have an opportunity through our planning department and through the Appalachian Regional Commission and Southern Tier 8, the 8-county region of the Southern Tier, has pretty much a guaranteed funding opportunity for up to $250,000 to be used toward planning purposes, either a comprehensive plan or a strategic plan. And we have a county comprehensive plan. We don't have a strategic plan, and it's something that we've wanted to do just for our organization and government. And so this is a great opportunity for that, and a great opportunity to build in equity, inclusion from the ground up in that process, and also community engagement, communications, etc. So there is an application process for these funds, which we will be embarking upon in conjunction with the planning department in July. And I think we'll receive notification in September, and then we would be likely engaging a consultant to lead us through a planning process. But as Deanna said, it would be very important for us to do this in one cohesive way, and to have it be centered, have this DEIJ work really built into the plan from the ground up. And so we're excited about that opportunity. And I can continue to keep the group posted on that.
I just have two questions. First, so then that would mean the strategic plan would be led by the planning department and someone in planning?
Well, we would be working, the grant opportunity would enable us to probably work with a consultant and to express to the consultant what we want in the planning process, and that person or firm would be engaging the organization in the planning process.
Okay, thank you. And then the second part to that question is, I think it's 2023 that we're supposed to have another workplace climate survey. So how does that, or how do you see that playing into the strategic plan?
Yeah, it's a great question and one that we've discussed here. I think that we would want to perhaps pause that for another year as we are embarking on this, so that it's that what we're doing makes sense and is coordinated, so that we're not working in a couple of different directions just for the sake of meeting that timeline. Because I think if we can coordinate those efforts, we can achieve better results.
Okay, thanks, Robert. And then Annie and Veronica.
Thinking forward in the process, when we get to the point of having a consultant who is supporting the organization in this matter, could we consider ways in which we can build in expectation that we want bidders for that contract to demonstrate their DEI credentials?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that the whole thinking or rationale or hope for this is that this is a fundamental part of the process and not an afterthought, or not something that that we're trying to. Yes, I guess the short answer to your question is yes, absolutely. Thank you, Rob.
Annie and Veronica, go ahead.
Thanks, Rachel. So I was wondering if you could just very briefly describe the difference between a strategic or a comprehensive plan and a strategic plan.
Sure. That's also a great question. So my understanding of it is that we have currently, through the planning department, a county-wide comprehensive plan that tells us, it's a guiding, they're both guiding document, but the comprehensive plan tells us, is a broader look at the community and the community's needs. So for instance, what are our needs around housing and development and environmental protection, and those sorts of broader community issues, employment, et cetera. Whereas a strategic plan, and the organizational strategic plan, is really looking at Tompkins County as an organization. There certainly is a community component to it, but it's more inward facing, or it's more looking at what our priorities for an organization, a workforce, and that sort of thing are, and that using that as a guiding document of what maybe our capacities, our strengths, our needs going forward, and the types of things that we want to aspire to be as an employer and as a government.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. And did you say, or Deanna, did you say we do have a comprehensive plan? Or I know we do, and we do not have a strategic plan?
That's correct.
Thanks.
Larry?
So I'm glad that this is being brought up with the WDIC, and I think I heard Lisa and Deanna say that diversity and inclusion will be central to how we think about this strategic plan. I think it would be important to really, in order to make that happen, to talk about the practical ways in which it will happen, like which groups will be involved, how they'll be involved, all that kind of stuff. And I imagine WDIC and Jedi particularly would be centrally involved. And so just the practical ways in which that will happen, like how it will happen.
Yes, I agree with that, Larry. And I think I agree with that. And I think I want to also mention Dominic, our communications director, is going to be involved in that as well, because there are critical pieces here around how we as a government engage and communicate with our employees and how we engage in with the community. And in the process itself, as you point out, who and how is engaged in the process of the planning itself. So yes, I would agree that WDIC and Team Jedi would certainly play a role.
And I'm guessing the answer is yes, but just to put the question officially on the table, the bargaining units would be as well, yes?
Yes. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Any other questions about the strategic planning? Great, thanks, Deanna. Thanks, Lisa.
And also just in terms of, go ahead, well, Rachel speak.
Go ahead, Larry.
Did you want to go first? I'm sorry.
No, I didn't. Go ahead.
I think it would also be good to ask the consultant to, or to ask WDIC and Jedi to take a look at the comprehensive plan and see if where in the comprehensive plan diversity and inclusion issues are addressed, and if they're not, what we're going to do about that, and how we're going to marry the diversity aspects of the strategic plan to the comprehensive plan. So I don't remember when the last plan was done, but we might want to beef up the diversity and inclusion aspects of that.
Oh, yeah.
Plan.
That's a good question. I haven't looked at the county's comprehensive plan in a while. And I think these are the, I don't know when that is due to be updated, but I know this is kind of being seen as its own separate process. The other thing that I wanted to mention that I forgot to mention that we were envisioning as part of the strategic plan is a way of tracking, monitoring progress, tracking, and easily updating in the future, so that we can continue to update, replicate, and track our progress.
Deanna, you had something?
No, I was just listening.
Oh, okay.
I can turn my mute off. I'm just listening.
Okay, all right.
No, I was going to ask if there was no more to ask, if there was any other questions, other than just saying that I was going to update Team Jedi tomorrow. But I wanted to talk with this group before, but then I've also already alerted the committee that has been doing the data research on these things, so they would be apprised. And then Lisa knows I'm always very, very honest. Lisa Holmes, even as I leave here, my last meeting, I'll just say again, Team Jedi is my little family here, so please keep them in mind as you work on the next aspects of this. They've spent a lot of time, the data and assessment group, doing groundwork, getting prepared for this. And so I told them that they should have the utmost confidence in your leadership, and that you will make sure that they are continue to be nurtured and cared for. And one of the things that, I know they're concerned with this, the transition and things that as they move along. But I told them they have an A1 supporter in our county administrator, and they will have a seat at the table.
Thank you, Deanna. But and I think that in this process, we are going to rely on, not only include, but rely on such an engaged group of people who've been doing the work and who are so invested. So I think that Team Jedi will be an integral part of this. So
Thank you.
And thanks
you.
for all the work that you all have done.
Makes me smile.
Thanks, guys. Anything further on the strategic plan? All right, moving on to rollout plan, diversity and values.
So everybody knows county administration is short staffed right now. However, so help is on the way. We are diligently, I know at least it's diligent seeking to hire. And then for those of you who may not have seen it today, they posted both the deputy county administrator and the chief equity and diversity officer's position. So we make sure we send those out to you all to share with your network. That was a free plug, Lisa. As we, Rachel, don't laugh. What was the question? I got distracted.
I do just want to say one thing about that. Are those both national searches?
Yeah, Lisa, just not, I don't.
Okay.
Right.
It was diversity and values rollout.
Lisa, did you want to answer her question about whether or not it was a national search or?
Yes. Yep.
So with that, my bad, sorry. We have a list of a couple of things that we have in terms of the values rollout, and I invited Dom to talk about some of these things as well. We have a worksheet that we will pass along with some ideas that we have shared, including some potential, there's a series of things in terms of the values, right? How you inculturate them is really at the top. The values help frame strategic planning, mission, vision, and values for the organization. And so we realize not only is that these words, how do we enculturate those things? So one way that which we want to demonstrate our values is by launching the performance evaluation process. That policy you see is on our list of things to review today. And so that was one thing that came from the climate survey, just seeing those things move along. We also want to have a series of sessions and forums around training on the values on this, and then also doing things within the different departments. So those are part of the values rollout as well. But within those things, we also have the visual representation of the values. And so one of the things that we care about as we think about these is the diversity statement as well. They're separate things, but they live in concert. And so I had, Dominic has successfully worked on, our organization, like rebranding is one of the things that I complained about from the first day that I moved here. And I said, how do we know that we're one government? That was why we moved there, one government with unique identities. But I always describe it as Target, like Target. When you see that bullseye, everybody knows it's Target. You don't have to know all the people are there, but you know the organization they represent. They have a strong brand presence. So Dominic has been working on items and ideas for the values rollout. So Dom, if you want to share some information, please do.
Thanks, Deanna. I think the most important things we need to do are along the lines of what you were describing, with some trainings and highlighting what that work means for employees. I thought it was a really good sign last night in one of the legislature's debates about how to use the values in support of a resolution or otherwise. And Veronica, I know you were leading that, so I wanted to thank you for enculturating them into how you explained your resolution and its meaning to our organization. And I really appreciated that personally. When it comes to how we reflect these visually to the community, I think that's really important. We have done quite a bit trying to increase what we show in terms of our diversity and inclusion as an organization. There's only so much graphics can do, but I'm going to give you a little breakdown of what our vision is here. I think we have an opportunity to better feature our employees and the people who work at this organization in visual ways, whether that's on the website, in public spaces, maybe on posters or different things. Everyone's pretty familiar with the previous diversity statement having been a poster spread throughout our organization with that sort of, I'm going to get it wrong, inclusion through diversity. Is that the right? Okay. I always flip the two words because that being in all of our departments, we'd like to replace those with some exciting things. I'd like to have them framed again. I don't know if that's something in the WDIC budget that would be potential, because it'd be nice to have them at that quality. So I think that's one of the areas we'd like to move forward on, is incorporating both the diversity statement and those values into a new sort of material for departments. Along with that, I think some campaigns, whether it's highlighting our employees on social media or in posters or other print materials throughout the organization, all talking about sort of how their actions or their work tie to the values. So there's a lot of different opportunities for that. An obvious one might be someone in Deanna's role who has equity right in the title. That's one of our values. That's excellent. You might feature someone who, works at a front desk somewhere about respect. So, with maybe the inclusive sticker that they have, a pride flag sticker. So there's different sort of visuals that we're thinking of how we represent that. But those are some of the areas that I think we should be doing soon. And then I'd like to figure out a process, and I could use WDIC's help on this, of identifying other employees throughout the organization that we want to feature, or work that the county is doing that reflects the values or the diversity statement that we want to feature. We can do a lot more with photo or video or just storytelling to help highlight them. Maybe we highlight them at our staff town halls, some sort of way to sort of identify great work being done that aligns with these values, and then share it out. I see that as a recruiting tool and as a culture tool, and I'd like to leverage it as both. So I'll lean on you for feedback on the types of things we can do to identify that work and those employees. But those are some of the areas that we're thinking of right now.
So you all know, if let me ask Veronica this question. What's your favorite holiday?
I was not prepared.
No, this is a good metaphor. I'm taking this to the top here. Dom, I have two more days of this.
I know.
One that's not problematic. Labor Day is a good one. I'm going to steal Robert's.
So when we think about Labor Day, what do we see? When we see Labor Day, we usually are seeing like things about patriotism or various things that come up, and there's like branding or things that makes you think of this. So it's not just the day, it's all the symbols around it. So when we think about our values, it's a multifaceted, multi-pronged approach. It is the photos, it's the visual representation, but it's the things. So for example, Lisa does lattes with Lisa. As the county administrator, isn't that what it's called, Lisa? She has lattes, but nobody knows how to use the machine but her. I was invited to lattes with Lisa, but I couldn't get a latte. I just held the cup the whole time. So you have these things, but that they're symbolic and they go with things, and so as we think about these things, whatever it is, the values, it will be the town hall that Lisa, she'll say something that people will take in the values, or there'll be some kind of part that's important. We'll also want to do that with the legislature as well. How do we have it, even with this Chairwoman Black, how does she make these comments in her chair's report? Because those are things that are also reprinted to the public that we're constantly reinforcing what we believe in and what we stand for. And so in addition to the training, so performance evaluation is a way we enculturate those things. The policy is one thing, but the procedure is the actual doing the performance evaluation itself. But then we also have other things like our rewards and recognition policy that we try to think of ideas, or employee picnic, ways in which we can do this. I struggle with the rewards and recognition policy, but there are lots of things. So it's not just one thing that we have to do. We have to make a splash, for lack of a better word, so people will take in the information from multiple angles and multiple spots. The reason why I said Labor Day, because there's probably things that you think about. People think about the barbecue, they think about the picnic, they think about the family gathering. So what is the family gathering in terms of our organization? It's the town hall that we do. What is the barbecue? It's the employee picnic. How do we build those values into those things? How do you trace these things in terms of ideas and our opportunities in our work, and to create a through line around the values? So that was why I said that. And Dominic, I'm gonna get you with a good metaphor, good question too, for the end of for Friday. So that's what we're planning in terms of the values rollout. And I mentioned it originally, saying that we know that we don't have as much staff here, so I don't want to speak to a particular timeline, but we do have a frame prepared for these things, but I would want to just defer to Lisa in terms of staffing capabilities or how she'd like to proceed with that.
Yeah, this is one of, it's something that's been on our radar, and I guess I need to talk more with Dominic about next steps and timing and so forth. But it's definitely something that is on our work plan and on our radar, and we will be addressing in the coming months. And staffing is certainly a consideration in terms of how we get it all done.
Also, as a resource, Team Jedi would like to be involved. Or in other words, I'm saying they're willing to use their hands, set up forums, have conversations within their departments as we can do those things. They're always itching, from what I gathered, to get their hands into like things that are there tangible. When I talk to them about philosophical things, they're like, well, what does that mean right now? Like I would take it from here to there. So those are that's another tool or resource that I think that would be helpful.
Annie and Veronica, did you have something?
Oh, I think we're just unmuted.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought it just unmuted.
Here, I have something. I love the idea of bringing like the people and employees in particular into the public facing or internal facing stuff. That sounds great. If it's the kind of thing that does get engagement on social media and humanizes stuff. It would be a small thing, but one thing I thought of about inculturating the values is the Human Rights Commission reads its mission statement or whatever it is, Larry can correct me, at the beginning of every meeting. And that's like, I think that's helpful. I mean, it may be easy to zone out through, but also you like remind yourself of it every time, and it's helpful to ground there. So maybe in the legislature meeting or town halls or something, we could do something similar.
I like that idea. Thank you.
Yeah, I love the way Dominic thinks about this. I would not have thought of it as a recruiting tool, but you're absolutely right about that. And I just want to say that it's so that it makes it into the minutes that there is money in the WDIC budget for framing those new statements. And anyone else on the values?
I also know that I talked with Ruby earlier about the employee picnic coming up on August 31st as another opportunity where we have the entire workforce and can do something in terms of values rollout there. And I know that she and her team were looking at lapel pins with the county, the values and the within the county map as something for all staff. So that's one of a minor thing, but something that another area where we're looking at that.
Anyone else have questions or comments about the diversity and values rollout?
Oh, I'd just say that I'd enhance my volunteer service to the county by adding one of those pins to my own plane.
All right. Thank you so much, Dominic, for sharing. Okay. Let's see. Next discussion item is Team Jedi update.
One of the questions I've been asked multiple times is what happens to Team Jedi when I leave? I said, nothing happens. Only good things continue to happen to Team Jedi as far as I'm concerned once I leave. So we just wanted to share that our HR commissioner has graciously agreed to assume support for Team Jedi for the foreseeable future, knowing that we have to also say out loud it's a temporary appointment to lead this team, knowing that the work will continue under the leadership of the future Chief Equity and Diversity Officer. But until then, Ruby comes with outstanding credentials and that she's worked in higher education and equity and diversity before. So I always remind people this committee is not just any committee. In other words, it's not basic facilitation that you need. It's really how do you understand the dimensions of equity in order to help support the committees in doing those goals. And so to me, I wanted to make sure that Team Jedi had the appropriate content expertise to be able to continue to move the organization forward. And so I'm grateful that Ruby has been so gracious, is what I'm trying to say, and her willingness to lead that group forward. And Ruby has received all of the goals for Team Jedi for the year, which were previously shared with this committee as well. So they'll continue to forge ahead in addition to helping with the recruitment activities of the committee as well. So they will be in excellent hands. And then Rachel also, who's just been an ace in the entire time I've been here, whether it's taking notes, reminding me, you said this at the beginning of the meeting, but you didn't do that, or you said you were going to do that, or so always Rachel's agreed to step up and do more. I think that's what I was asking you to do, Rachel, if I didn't ask you to do. So she's agreed to continue to be supportive. Rachel's taken the minutes for Team Jedi over the last year and a half. So when people ask about what is the committee doing, all of our information is archived in our MS Teams folder for Team Jedi. So every single set of minutes, all of our videos, every single meeting, the things that we can share for sure. Sometimes there are really vulnerable moments when we don't publish those things. But in terms of our structure, committees, process, and progress is all in our Teams folder. And so I appreciate Rachel continuing in her leadership capacity as she has. So thank you for supporting Ruby, and thank you for just being such a great person for Tompkins County. You are a true jewel, and you make this organization a lot better. You make it a great place to work. So thank you, Rachel, for everything that you do and being an unsung hero in so many spaces, and being brave enough to do the difficult things. And I just look forward to seeing, how you continue to thrive.
Thanks, Deanna, and thank you to Ruby. I'm so glad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Team Jedi is in good hands, and the transition has occurred. We have also bought ice cream and cookies and various things to make sure that Ruby feels properly supported and loved, asking her to take on these additional duties. And so just wanted this committee to know if there are questions about Team Jedi, where those questions can be posed, and also Rachel continuing to support as well.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any questions from anyone about the Team Jedi update before we move on? All right, next is facing race.
Okay. The question had come up last time about facing race and what we were going to do as an organization. And so there's been a little bit of a combination. I think Veronica is going in person. Some folks are going online. And so wanted just to make sure that our colleagues are aware of the deadlines. The actual conference is November 17th through the 19th in Phoenix, Arizona. There's still time to register. So one of the things that will be helpful for us to know in terms of the WDIC budget, the sustainer registration is $550. If you want to go virtual, it's $200. And so that would be the cost we'd be paying for some Team Jedi members. I've already agreed to sponsor about 10 of them. I mean, anybody who wanted to go, they had to choose between the Gear Conference or the Facing Race Conference. So a lot of Team Jedi membership will be participating, but I also just wanted to lift that here again, and I'll put the information in the chat where the registration is for Facing Race so that we can be a contingency. One of the things that we would like to do, the future, hopefully future Chief Equity Diversity Officer will identify who in the organization has attended and then do some facilitation after those things. Because what we tried to do last time, we actually had lots of community members that went from various organizations, and we all got together after the conference and had several sessions about what we took from those things and how we work within our respective organizations. And so I think that would be really neat to continue to, connect to our community members or other community organizations in that way. But then also, as a person who takes the taxpayer dollar very, very, very seriously, you don't just go to conferences. You got to do something with the information. So I always require employees that go on the county dime to make sure that they do several sessions or tell me how they're going to use this information in their organization, because it's hard to come up with a dollar. And so if we can give ourselves a deadline, if that's possible by the end of July, that would be great to have all those things wrapped up, and then the prices won't continue to increase, and we can, the organization can identify who the contingency is, and then maybe we can also do some more coordination around who wants to go to what session, specific sessions, and how we get as much information across the organization as possible.
Deanna
Yes.
or
Deanna,
Dina.
I'm Dina.
Dina. Okay. Yeah.
So I went last year and I definitely want to go this year. With your departure, who should we be getting in contact with about getting registered?
Well, if you want to go, if you just tell me now, I have a list that I'm going to turn over to Ian. Ian, who's in our department, has been working on helping with registrations for these things. And so if I have your name, that's
Sure.
fine. Just as long as it's not before, if it's before Friday, we can take care of that. That's not a problem.
Okay, so I can still email you tomorrow?
Yes, I'll just write it down now.
Okay, but I'll be in virtual. I'm not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Great. Thanks.
Sure.
Kenny?
It's actually me. At some point we discussed trying to reach out to folks who might not be in these Jedi anti-racism, diversity circles that exist, and maybe inviting them to go to Facing Race. Is that happening? Or has there been any updates on this within county employees?
Typically, so this is where I find I have not specifically I can tell you the particular reason. It's not because I don't want to have more engagement. A lot of it has to do with the supervisor. I will make the request to the department, and then I have to get supervisory approval. And I never want to say to an employee, "Hey, will you go to this?" not knowing that they have received a request from a supervisor. So typically, what we say is to our department heads, we want to hear from voices that typically wouldn't raise their hand. So the people that you're talking about. So then we have the departments opt in. Does it make sense? Ask them to elect people, because then that way with the travel process and approval, you have to have the employee, but also your supervisor approval to have that time off. So that's how we go about that.
Thank you. Any other questions about Facing Race conference? Okay. That's it for our discussion items. Moving on to review of policies. Report discussion on the performance evaluation and language access policy, which we should have all received and had a chance to look at.
Can we start with the language access policy, because Dominic is here for that as well. So in case he
wants perfect.
He wants to leave. And I think we only have 5 minutes left, right? So can I maybe to kind of move this along? Does anybody have any questions about the policies? I wanted to share them from the context of we wanted the feedback from you all, but typically we'd go through them, but knowing that it's almost 5 o'clock and folks may have other places they have to be. We have a deadline. I'll just say this. We have a deadline of the 28th to give feedback back to us on these policies. High level performance evaluation policy. It is the process by which employees receive feedback, and including some templates and forms. The county has not had this policy in a really long time, I'll say it that way. It was one of the things that came out of the climate survey that employees have asked for. I can't tell you the number of employees that said, I've been here 15 years, my supervisors never evaluated me. I've been here 7 years, my supervisors never evaluated. So the employees are calling for this and have been asking for this. And so we have 2 templates, one in terms of blue collar and white collar, and then knowing that by union, we've had to go, there's different processes by which we have to adhere to. So it just lays out the step and supervisor responsibilities. But key points is that it has to be done annually. There are certain conversations that we had, and all the information has to be reported to human resources in a timely manner. So it's going to start there. Second policy, the language access policy, which Dominic will be spearheading going forward. We heard a lot of feedback from our community members about accessibility challenges during COVID, and also related to some of the reimagining public safety issues. The county, the last legislative group, appropriated $278,000 to update our website to be able to translate it, but then also hiring more language, improving our translation services, human translation services. And so that policy not only changes the policy from limited English proficiency, because that term is considered a deficit language. When we talked to community members, they said they do not like to be called limited access or limited English proficiency persons, at all. So we're discontinuing that language. We're using the language as persons using a primary language other than English. We also, so we had 2 sets of feedback sessions. We had feedback sessions before we updated the policy, and then we had feedback sessions again, and now it's going through the organizational review policy process, and it's going to go to government operations on the 7th, I want to say, of July. And WDIC, there's not a better group to be thinking about this than I believe than my colleagues here. And so we wanted to ask for your input. And if you don't have any input, that's other than thumbs up, that's something, but we think it's our due diligence to say, this is what's happening. And Dom, did you have anything you wanted to say? Sorry to try to make that quick.
Just to detail the feedback sessions, those were with community organizations who work directly with those populations in particular throughout the community. That's all I'd add. Thanks, Deanna.
Well, thank you. And they've been really impressed. We're not saying it's about us, but the fact that we are asking them for their feedback, listening to what they say, and then doing what they're asking us to do, that has built an enormous amount of trust and credibility. And so they're really looking forward to working with us going forward.
I don't have any questions, but I just want to thank you both for your work on these because they definitely needed updating and they look amazing.
Thank you. And I also would just like to thank Ruby Pulliam, because Ruby and I she's not here to take credit for the work she's done on the performance evaluation policy, but then also the engagement group from the climate survey. They started this in 2018. And so 4 or 5 years later, we're finally at a place with the policy. And thank you, Dominic. And it's been a lot. It's been a labor of love, but a lot of people have been involved who are not here today to thank as well.
Yeah, I think we're going to make some real progress on the language access. It's so great to see a significant amount of resources set aside for it, because it will allow us to do something not just incrementally, but it will allow us to do something really meaningful, which is what we heard from the community members, that it was sort of if all of the information isn't accessible in this way, none of it is, because you will hit dead ends in that information. And we'll be able to think totally differently about how we do this, and we'll be able to use new tools. And one really good sign is we've had some folks across the organization who are bilingual or who use languages other than English interested in working on this with us. That's something I didn't quite expect at the beginning, but is a really nice outgrowth of staff engagement on this particular program, where there hasn't been as many opportunities for that in the past. So I'm excited that the policy is also expanding how we work with some of our colleagues as well.
It's cool stuff Tompkins County is doing. It's cool stuff.
It is. Any questions or comments about the policies? Awesome. Thanks. I don't have any reports or updates. Does anyone else have reports or updates? Annie.
I just, it's not a report or an update, but I just want to take this opportunity to thank Deanna Carruthers for all her hard work and dedication that she's shared with the county, and all the energy, the good energy and fun she's at. And we really thank you from the county, and we are going to miss you, and we wish you a lot of good fortune in your new endeavors.
Thank you. It's very, very kind. And I'm just going to take a personal liberty for a second. I just want to thank my mom and dad. I've been wanting to say this out loud in a meeting for a long time, who believe in me, and know I can, and give me a hard time every day. Never make sure I'm too big for my britches, but then I can just send this to them and say, love you, mom and dad. I'm coming back south, still not moving home, but thanks for making sure I had the education that I need, that I had clothes on my back, making sure I went to college, making sure I had faith. And just always uplifting me wherever I am. And so thank you. Love you guys. And the most important person in my life, Seth. And thanks for believing in me even when I want to quit and run away, and making me go back and fight and never giving up. So to those people in my life who believe in me and give me the chance to be here. So love you all. Yep. So thank you guys in the committee, but I just want to say it somewhere so I can just, my family is everything.
Beautiful. We're gonna miss you, Deanna.
I'll miss you guys. I'll be just a phone call away. I have the same number since I was 16. I say that all the time.
Okay, Brittany.
I was gonna say it's Deanna's favorite time. It's the first ever official executive session of WDIC. So we need a mover and a seconder.
I move.
Deanna moves, Larry seconds.
Okay, let me get the recording stopped and the live stream stopped, and then I'll tell you when you can get going.
Okay.
Do we have
I
a,
don't think I'm